Okay, that should be fine now. If not, JC has to give me a sign. All good?
Looking great.
Okay. So sorry, I have to sort myself out here. Okay, see how that's gonna work. Okay, so my name is Katrin Ganswindt. I'm energy and finance campaigner at URGEWALD in Germany. Yesterday, some of you heard maybe already the ABC of finance. And today I want to talk about one example, HSBC, the climate gangster, and the world's fossil bank. Just to get an overview what it's going to be about, first about HSBC as a company, about the fossil fuel business, about the coal business, but also about a policy, short input. And in the end, we're going to hear the case study from Mehedi on Payra coal port in Bangladesh. So HSBC is a short for Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. In the wake of the Opium Wars, where British arms forced China to accept opium importations coming from British India, London established a colony in Hong Kong in 1865. Most of you will know that, but some of you might not know that HSBC was created in the same year in Hong Kong by a Scottish merchant specializing on the opium trade. And until today, the means of HSBC are to finance trade between Europe and Asia. In the beginning of the 90s, in anticipation of the transfer of Hong Kong's sovereignty back to China, the headquarters of HSBC was transferred to London. With the current market capitalization, as an explainer, market capitalization is the price of all outstanding shares, so all shares traded on the market. With a market capitalization of 107 US billion, HSBC is UK's biggest bank. But what you heard already from the history, it's rather a Chinese bank. One indicator is, for example, that their finance reporting is always in English and in Chinese, so you see the importance for the market. Also, if you look at the revenues, this is reporting from HSBC itself, about half is generated in Asia. And Asia, as you might know, is really the ground zero of building new energy infrastructure. So what kind of energy infrastructure is financed in Asia really has an impact on the energy future of the whole planet. So after this very brief introduction, we'll have a look at their energy business, fossil business first. So here you see the link down below to Rainforest Action Network's Banking on Climate Change study. Every year, the Rainforest Action Network from the UK is looking at banks globally and what their fossil fuel financing looks like. And on top of the league table are usually US banks, followed by Canada and Japan. But if you look at Europe, really the UK banks are leading, all big 3 UK banks, including HSBC. Since the Paris Agreement was signed, HSBC financed fossil fuel companies with 87 billion US dollar. And alone in 2019, this was 27 billion US dollar. This is almost double the amount they financed fossil fuels in 2015 with. So it's still growing. This number makes HSBC world's 12th biggest fossil bank and really the second biggest in Europe. So really significant really for both Europe and the world. What they're especially deep in when looking at fossils apart from coal is oil and gas offshore. They are world's number 5 offshore financing bank. Since the Paris Agreement was signed, they put about $13.7 billion in the oil and gas industry, drilling offshore. I want to have a deeper look, though, at coal, because this is really what I know most about also, and where I look deeper into the policy now, and a bit of as a preparation for tomorrow, I want to introduce that. So they have a coal policy. Like some banks, they exclude, for example, mountaintop removal mining. That's a US mining method. They are also excluding new coal mines. And they don't take new customers, which make a revenue, the biggest share of their revenue with thermal coal mining. For mining, that's a good start, but not the state of the art for Europe. You will, as I said, you will hear more about that tomorrow, but you will also see from the examples I show you later that this doesn't necessarily exclude the biggest miners. For coal power companies, they don't even have an exclusion on company level. And for those who listened to the ABC of Finance yesterday, you learned that it's really crucial to exclude company findings and not just projects, because this is the biggest share of financing for new coal infrastructure. So for coal power, they only exclude financing new coal projects, but even here they have terrible exclusions. They explicitly say they do that for projects in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Vietnam they want to finance. But they say for all projects which are which financial closure by the end of 2023, that is valid. So we'll have to look at them in 3 years again more closely. But the exceptions they have at the moment are for these countries, as I said, and are especially, they use the excuse of power poverty. Maybe Mehedi will say more to that later. We can talk about it in the discussion. Many banks do say that they don't want to exclude new coal power plants because they want to energize the poor. But in fact, 84% of the world's electricity poor households live in rural areas where the grid doesn't even reach, and rather decentralized renewable energy makes much more sense. But what you really need to keep in mind here is HSBC might not easily finance all new coal plants, but it can still finance all the projects, all the companies which are behind these projects. And that's what I want to talk about now, the coal plant developers. We did an intensive research on the companies planning new coal plants worldwide. And we also do regular finance researches on that. So in our finance research, which was released during COP last year, we found that HSBC was financing coal plant developers with $8 billion. This makes them Europe's #2 financer of coal plant developers. These coal plant developers together are planning over 107 gigawatt of new coal power, and already they have installed almost 400 gigawatt of coal power. If you're interested in looking up maybe the bank or asset manager of your choice, check out our page, coalex.org, under finance data, and you will find more details on who's financing which coal plant developer as a whole. So let's have a closer look at some of the companies behind this new coal power projects. One important to mention is PLN. It's an Indonesian company, or the Indonesian power company, really. That's one of the biggest coal plant developer as a client for HSBC. And it's the 9th biggest coal plant developer worldwide, planning about 10 gigawatt of new coal power. This is about a third of the actually installed capacity of Indonesia so far. $2.3 billion were channeled from HSBC to PLN in the last 3 years. Another important player to mention, especially because I said before it's rather a Chinese company, is that one of the clients of HSBC is also the State Grid Corporation of China. And while they obviously do not only do fossils, still they're planning 4.6 gigawatt of new coal power in China. HSBC has financed this company with $1.3 billion in the last 3 years. But to show that HSBC, even if the main business is in Asia, they're also important for Europe. And I want to give you one infamous example, which is RWE, a German power company. HSBC financed them with 318 billion, but is also an investor in RWE. So it's like important from two sides. RWE is Europe's biggest CO2 emitter with 88 million tons of CO2 emitted last year. And this is because it's not only a power company, but it's also a mining company. And with 65 million tons of lignite, of annual production of lignite, it's the world's biggest lignite producer. RWE was infamous, or became infamous, with the crackdown on Hambach. Maybe, I guess some of you will have heard about that. And because it's important to hear about more projects, and not only the ones we focus on in Europe, but about the ones which are much less known in Asia, I want to hand over now to Mehedi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First Q&A, or I should start?
I think we'll save all the questions for the end and then ask the two of you in the Q&A.
Okay, thank you.
Mehedi, we cannot hear you.
We still can't hear you.
Still. Okay, it's okay now?
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening from Bangladesh, because it's almost 9:15 here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I'm trying to share my screen now. Just 1 minute. Is it okay?
Looking good.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much. Before going to the presentation, I should say thanks to Katrin for focusing on Bangladesh a little bit. And now I want to share a little bit about the energy situation in Bangladesh with you. Presently, we have capacity of 21,000 megawatt total, but our requirement in mid-summer, which is 40 degrees Celsius temperature a day, on that day, its total requirement is 12,000 megawatt. And now in COVID-19 period, our daily consumption is at most 5,100 megawatts. So still 13,000 megawatt is idle. And the government has to pay capacity charge to the private power plants during if it doesn't use the power from the companies. So coverage is in December 2019, the total coverage in rural areas at 84%, including the home street solar power plant, and now it is coverage is 90% in March. So only 10%. We need only more 10% coverage, which is actually the problem of power grid and the distribution system. So I want to focus on first on Payra port and additional infrastructures, and then go to the HSBC and the dredging things. Bangladesh, there are three seaports in Bangladesh. One is largest is Chittagong seaport, which is depth is 9.5 meter. Second seaport is Mongla seaport near southwestern zone. Its depth is 8 meter in high tide. Third seaport, which is Payra seaport, its depth is 9.2 meter in high tide. And there is a planned seaport which is going to be established by construct by Japanese company JICA, which is now they are estimating that there are 12 meter depth near to that port. So let's come to the Payra seaport. It's established started in 2013 and almost completed primarily in 2016. And operation started in August 2016 in a limited way. About 9.2 meter depth. Expected drought 11 meter. The government should allow 11 meter depth and to allow the big vessels there. The location, the channel here, you can see the channel is called Rabnabad channel. And the capacity of coal terminal is 20 million ton per year. So many of the players started jumping in the Payra port, seaport, because of its geopolitical importance. And China, very fast, China got their what's called stake in that port. China Harbor Engineering invested around 150 million, and China State Construction Engineering invested 360 million USD, where Exim Bank of India has given more than $4 billion, and Royal Haskoning DHB Netherlands, they got consultancy, and also HR Wallingford UK, they got dredging consultancy from the government. So you can see several power plants here on this right side of the screen. First Payra port here in the down, and then RPCL coal power plant 11 kilometer far from it. Shena Kollan coal power plant is 3.6 kilometer from the port. Barisal coal power plant is 40 kilometer far from the port, that is on the left. And Payra coal power plant is 7 kilometer far from the port, which is around this small area. Total power, they will produce around 4,400 megawatt, and annual coal requirement is 15.5 million ton per year. So now we can see the using the coal used by these power plants. They will use this much coal, which is Barisal coal power plant will use around 2 million ton, where Payra coal power plant will use 4.12 million ton. RPCL coal power plant will use 4.6 million ton, and Shena Kollan power plant will use 4.5 million ton. Total need up to 2013-24 is 14.2 million ton for these coal power plants. So a German specialist who is a hydrologist, he told last year that Payra port would not be viable as a deep sea port in the long run due to the huge amount of sedimentation. But still, you know, I told you earlier that Chittagong power port has a draft of 9.5 meter, where this Payra Payra seaport has 9.2 meter depth. So it's a totally from our side, it's actually a eyewash to the people that this will be a very good or very strong seaport for the coastal zone. So we need so the dredging is required for 40.5 nautical miles. That means 75 kilometers with a width of 100 to 125 meters. The primary contract was is for 46 months from April 2020 to January 2024. But they will start working according to the document. They will start working in April, and primary work is 18 months. That means up to the December 2021. So you know that here everything is written. I am not going to read all the things. The problem is this whole dredging thing will be a PPP model. That means private-public partnership. That means all the ships have to pay fees to enter the channel, and the company, the Belgian company Jan de Nul, will make profit from here, and they will share only 20% of total cost, and 80% will be taken from different sources, including HSBC-led consortium. HSBC is providing 865 million euros, that means $964 million. And Belgian Export Credit Agency, they didn't disclose they haven't disclosed the amount from their side. So we don't know how much money they are giving in this dredging work. So the impacts first, the land acquisition. Total 7,000 acres of land have been taken, has been taken from around 15,000 people, small and marginal farmers, most of them, because in Bangladesh, the land size is not more than 2 acres per head per farmer. So it's almost all of them small and marginal farmers. Still around 3,000 landowners are waiting for their compensation after these 7 years of construction started 7 years ago. And still there are 3,000 of them waiting for that money. And out of this 7,000 acres, 600 acres of land has been taken for the coal terminal. Here is the protest. One of the protests, they organized many procession, human chain, petition, and also writ petition to the High Court, and then the government forced them to withdraw their petition from the court, because they got people, usually the leader, 2 or 3 leaders I know who got around 13, 14 cases, court cases against them when they started this petition and movement. So the ESIA report itself says that crop production of the area totally wiped out. Agricultural land might be converted to non-agriculture land due to power plant and the port and induced infrastructure developed. And you see the after the port started, these lands, all of the signboards are different companies who took the land from the district office. That means district, here it's called district commissioner's office, and they put their signboard there. These are all energy projects, like petrol pumps. Did one. The first one is petrol pump. That other one is cargo. The last one is tanker services. This is the thing. You know, Hilsha is our what's called national fish of Bangladesh, and it's also a very important part of Bangladeshi culture and also Indian people's culture. So this and Bangladesh produce almost 55% of Hilsha of the world, and export to India, Middle East, USA, and Europe. The ESI report itself says that Rabnabad channel is one of the suitable spawning ground of hilsa and pangas and giant tiger prawn, which might be affected due to the dredging activities. But they didn't take any measure to or any remedial measure to reduce the risk on hilsa fish. Impacts of grazing land. After this is a canal from the Rabnabad channel where this one power plant took the land. After the construction of coal terminal, 4 power plants, a cantonment, seaport, and additional housing infrastructures. The local farmers have no grazing land now, no land for vegetable production, and no work as they are not skilled workers. Flooding. The headline is wrong. More than 100 villages, around 220,000 people experienced flood for more than 2 months last year due to the different construction works of the port and coal power plant surrounding the villages. There are so inhuman situation happened last year, and they are unfortunately they are expecting this year also, because there is no channel to drain the water from the villages, because everywhere there are different big constructions are happening around 4 power plants, seaports, coal terminal, roads, big roads, and all the things. And also the residential sites of the staffs, of the employees of port and power plants. So now, how much emission will happen? You can see here. Payra coal power plant is 1320 megawatt. It will emit around 11.80 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. RPCL Potuakhali, it's around 1320 megawatt. It's, according to the ESIA report, it's saying that 11.30 million ton of greenhouse it will emit. Senakallan coal power plant, it's also 1320 megawatt. It will emit around 12 million ton of carbons. Borishal coal power plant, which is 450 megawatt power plant, it will emit around 3.8 billion carbon. And Payra coal terminal operation phase, it will emit around 6.70 million ton of carbon. If it is the conservative calculation, because it's I got it from all the authorities who are who are constructing this power plant. So if you calculate independently and as to the and additional infrastructures, if you take into account, then the emission maybe will be double of the estimated one. So the 31st March 2020, Indonesian cargo came to the Payra seaport, which carried 22,225 tons of coal. Its name is Chios Trinity, which is actually should be renamed Chaos Trinity. And the Chaos Trinity already started unloading the coal in the port. Primarily, the authority stopped unloading because of the fear of coronavirus, but later, due to pressure from the policy leaders, especially from the high command, they started unloading the coal in the Payra seaport, especially coal terminal. So this is the site where the coals are they are dumping. So our demand is to stop HSBC, stop dumping coal in our coastal zone. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please let me know. Thank you. I'll try to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Mehedi and Katrin. I have a few questions which we already started collecting, and I believe the first question was for Katrin. What would an effective exclusion policy have to look like in the case of HSBC?
Is it stopped?
I think at the top of your screen
Oh, yeah.
should be
Thank you.
something.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was
Thank you.
looking for
Thank
it
you.
before.
Thank you. Thank you.
A good call, a good exclusion policy. Yeah. So, also what a good policy in general looks like, as said before, if it's not only referring to projects, but really to companies, that's really the basis. And then it can have several parts. So one is that you really have clear criteria, public criteria and measurable criteria, which are excluding companies. And I can basically tell that you best on the example of coal, because we analyze many coal policies. The coal policies are usually the most advanced also if you look globally, and we did a big research. I mentioned before coalexit.org. We had a look at the companies of coal companies worldwide. And choosing these companies for the list, we also did according to certain criteria we developed also after campaigning on investors getting out of coal. So they come from real life experience, these criteria. And what we would recommend is at the current state to at least exclude all companies where the third of their income or the power they produce comes from coal. So a 30% revenue threshold and a 30% power threshold for coal. Also the biggest miners and coal power companies, so having 10 gigawatt of coal-fired power or mining 20 million tons of coal per year. That would be also an exclusion. And very important, that's why I mentioned the coal plant developers also start with excluding all companies which are expanding any coal infrastructure. So coal plants, coal mines, coal ports, coal railway lines, and whatever you can think of. Another important thing is really that any financial institution has an idea of when they want to finally ditch coal and also other fossils. That's helpful for them, yeah, to reduce the risk, for us, because that's what we want to achieve, that they don't get financing anymore, and even for the companies, so they get a clear sign, oh my God, for example, Allianz will not insure us anymore in 5 years, so we have to look for something else, or we have to change our business model. And we know from our information from banks, but also companies, that this is really helping the outlook, that they have to change their business model to stay clients with their local banks. And maybe as a last sentence, Crédit Agricole is what we at the moment say is the state of the art of coal exclusions. So this French bank for the moment has the best coal policy out there of banks.
Thank you, Katrin. The next question is for Mehedi. Will the port exclusively be used to ship coal? And would anyone else other than the coal industry benefit from it?
Thank you. Thank you for question. Not only coal. It's actually a multi-purpose power seaport where everything can be transported. But coal is special apart, where it is in 7,000 acre of land totally, in total area, 600 acres of land is totally dedicated to coal terminal only. There are LNG terminal, small LNG terminal, but coal is the major part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Katrin had a question for you too, Mehedi. She wanted to know if the loan to the dredging company is already settled, what could be financial leverages to stop the project?
So the agreement is loan agreement signed in 2018, late 2018. But still the work has not been started because of COVID-19. The scheduled work is to start in April, but it's not started due to this disaster. So now, if we can stop coal transferring, if you can stop financing from HSBC, The next coal power plant will not be established because there are plan of 4 coal power plants, and only the Payra coal power plant's first phase, which is financed by China CMC, China Machinery Company. That part maybe they will run, but we can stop the others like RPCL coal power plant, like Senakallan coal power plant. This is totally a disaster if they start working together. This cumulative impact is huge on the people, on the environment, and the coastal zone is full of mangrove forest, which will go totally go. That's it.
Thank you. I believe several people wanted to know whether we had email addresses for the CEO or chair people at HSBC. And I can maybe share that HSBC is also holding their AGM on Friday this week. So that would be a very good time to reach out to them. I spoke to Katrin, she said I could share that information with you. I'm also with URGEWALD. We do have a campaign where we ask people to email them to share exactly the kind of information we've been just talking about. I don't have the email address for Noel Quinn, who is currently the CEO of HSBC, but an email address that I think would be interesting to use is sustainability@hsbc.com. I think that would be a very good email to try for now. And if you want to, I can also share a link with more addresses, but that's something you could try. You could try finding lead people at HSBC on LinkedIn, potentially Twitter. I didn't find Noel Quinn there, but sustainability@hsbc.com is maybe a good starting point. And let me see if there are any other questions. I think we can probably ask 1 or 2 more questions, and then we should wrap this session up. But the next question that I have for Katrin is, do you know if HSBC has any policies regarding other fossils like oil and gas?
Yeah, for other fossils, they just have like little exclusions, so to say. So they have a certain project exclusions for the Arctic, so drilling in the Arctic Circle, and also for tar sands. But again, this is all on project level. And the tricky thing about drilling in the Arctic and tar sands is that you don't have companies who really do that big. So even if you would say a company with which is mainly making its revenue from drilling in the Arctic, that just doesn't exist. So you would actually need to say the same as what we say for coal. So any company which is developing new coal infrastructure should not be a client on your client's list anymore. And the same is for all kinds of fossil fuels. So if you want to start with anything, then exclude with the companies who are still drilling in new places, especially in very sensitive zones like the Arctic. So any company which is exploring there, which is pretty much all majors, should not be on your client list anymore.
Thank you, Katrin. Another question that I find very interesting, it came from Facebook, is how have HSBC interacted with the campaign so far? And maybe that's something both Mehedi and you, Katrin, can speak to. Mehedi, would you like to start?
Yeah, but from my side, I am a ground level campaigner. I only joined the campaign of Market Forces last year, and I have to pay thanks to everybody who joined that campaign against HSBC on the coal. But I don't have direct no communication with HSBC. They didn't communicate.
Katrin?
So I thought for a moment, maybe you are more fit because you're more in the UK campaign than I are even to do that. I know that the last time we wanted to speak to them, which was UK roundtable, was all postponed. So what we do is invite banks to sit with us in a closed environment and discuss good and bad policies. But thanks to the terrible crisis again, this is not happening at the moment. So maybe you want to answer it.
I don't know if there's too much that I can say apart from the fact that I think what I can say is that out of the 3 big UK banks we've been focusing on with our campaigns, HSBC is not the most responsive or necessarily the most eager to engage in a conversation with us about policies moving forward on climate, etc. Which may also be due to the fact that they've been having a bit of, well, they've gone through chaotic times when it came to chair people, CEOs switching positions, etc. But it will be interesting to see how the AGM plays out on Friday and what responses to potential questions we are planning to ask, but other shareholders are planning to ask maybe. So I can probably tell you more after that. And there's another question, probably the last question for today, from Joe here on Zoom. Does concept of risk of investing stranded assets play a role with HSBC?
May I?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In Bangladesh, HSBC or any other investors doesn't have any problem. Don't have any problem. They are very much interested to invest Bangladesh because according to the power purchasing agreement PPA, Bangladesh government will pay according to your full capacity. If suppose you are producing 600 megawatt per hour, so if Bangladesh government do not buy your a single unit of electricity, the government will pay you for the 600 according to the 600 megawatt as it is 600 megawatt you produced. So you will get your money. It's confirmed for 23 years or 20 years or 25 years. Most of the agreements are for 23 to 25 years. So that is why all of these dirty banks are interested to invest in Bangladesh. I don't know what about Cambodia or Vietnam or Indonesia, but it's here, and that is how our all people's public money is going to the private pocket. All of the dirty companies. There are more than 19 companies who are getting this much money. This more than 4 billion last year, $4 billion, and our total loan is $5.63 billion last year. Okay, that's it.
Since there are more questions that are coming up, I would suggest that if you are okay with that, that both you, Mehedi, and Katrin share your email addresses or another way of people being able to contact you, because I see that there are a few other email questions that we won't be able to answer right now. Regarding the HSBC AGM, yes, it is happening online on Friday. I can't speak to plans XR might be having. I would suggest that you keep an eye on all their social media channels, and maybe somebody will have time to speak about that a bit later. I will be holding a webinar on Friday where we will be talking about what we at URGEWALD are doing around the HSBC AGM, but also Barclays and Standard Chartered, and what we're trying to do online, since nobody can do anything offline essentially at the moment. I see that Katrin and Mehedi have shared their email addresses. This should wrap it up for this session. I would like to thank you for having been with us. Please also tune in for the next session, which is going to start in 30 minutes from now. We will be hearing about Barclays and their investments in fossil fuel companies from Nicole, a campaigner at URGEWALD, and Melinda Yankee, an environmental lawyer and activist focusing on oil and gas development, specifically in Guyana. So that's going to be incredibly interesting. So come back in 30 minutes and enjoy your break. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.